Good morning, afternoon. What's up, everybody? I wanted to talk about the 2-hour Blacklist event that happened last night. It was pretty good. The first half was a little filler. It was a little bit of a filler Blacklister. The Blacklister dealt with abducting people from a university and then freezing them to death. It looked like with some kind of cryogenic or some kind of liquid that would freeze you to death. And then they posed you outside, and that was kind of their MO. Nobody knew why. Nobody knew. Everybody thought that the guy who did it was in jail because he had confessed. But 5 years later, the deaths start happening again. The cool thing about this very first part was that it had to do with podcasts, much like our own, except for this one is something that's actually really, really popular right now is true crime podcasts. So there was a lady doing a podcast about this serial killer and about how she thought he was innocent, and how she thought that one of the professors was the one who was abducting young women and killing them and posing them out and freezing them to death. So this episode mostly dealt with that, but again, it was a filler Blacklister to have some of the side spots be Agent Wrestler still looking for who Reddington is. For some reason, the Russians, because he found a picture of Agent Keen's great-grandfather, who she had met before, just not as her great-grandfather. She didn't know him that way. She knew him as Dom. And so he had found that using security camera from a P.O. box that he found belonged to Rostova. And so he used that to try and kind of move forward, and apparently the Russians were following him, trying to figure out what his interest in her dad was as well, Rostova's dad, and so there was a little bit of filler for that. There was a little bit of filler with Dembe trying to figure out, what path he needs to go down, whether he thought Reddington was going to kill him and that sort of thing. Reddington went to Dom, to Rostova's dad, for answers as far as clarity answers go. He went there to think. He went there for advice, and he got it. He got the advice because he wasn't in this episode. At the very beginning, you learn that Agent Keen and Dembe were holding secrets, which we the viewer have already known, but Reddington didn't. And so he felt like this was a big betrayal, and he went off to go figure out whether or not, what kind of revenge he needed to do, and if he was going to kill him, and blah blah blah. And so at the end of the episode, we see, or throughout the episode, we see Dembe going to pray and going to ask his spiritual leader, what he thinks he should do, and trying to get advice from just people in his world. But at the very end of the first part of that episode, Reddington decides that Dembe can do no wrong. He doesn't need to apologize because they're like brothers. They've both been through things, and they both hold secrets for each other, and they've both always had each other's back. Reddington realizes that he's being kind of a douche, and that Dembe doesn't need to apologize for something, especially showing loyalty to what we perceive to be at this point Reddington's daughter. But at the same time, Dembe doesn't think that he can forgive Reddington for what he might have done, thinking about maybe killing Dembe after this whole time. And so Dembe is going to go off and carve his own path, apparently. He doesn't say where, doesn't say anything about that. You just see a boarding pass that he's going to go somewhere. So they part ways, and, I'm guessing by the end of the season they're probably going to come back, but you never know. So they part ways for, at this point in their timeline, what seems like it might be forever. And then we go into at the very, very end of that first episode, Wrestler tells Agent Keen that he's still been looking, that he's still been trying to figure out who Reddington is, even though he promised Agent Keen that he wouldn't. And he shows him the picture because he says he's at a dead end. Agent Keen says, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, but, we need to stop. She kind of plays off because she knows who's in that picture. He says that it's Rostova's dad, and she knows him as Dom, so that would make him her great-granddad. And so the end of the episode has her going to his house and letting him know, hey, I know you're my good granddad, that kind of stuff. And so the beginning of the second hour has them. The whole second hour essentially is Rostova. It's a Rostova episode. It starts with Dom saying, what happened to Rostova when she got washed ashore. Everybody assumed she was dead. She was found in a shelter. They helped her kind of bring her back to life, and so forth. And the Dom takes Agent Keen on a drive and tells her the whole story. So Rostova has been using the real Raymond Reddington, not the Raymond Reddington we know now, the real Raymond Reddington as an asset for the Russians. She was supposed to turn him. He was in the military. He was in the Navy, I believe. She was supposed to turn him against the United States and turn him to the KGB. Instead, she fell in love with him, and she started, they started having an affair and blah, 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 and that's where Agent Keen, or Marcia, as we know now, was born from that relationship. But she washed ashore, Rostova, and because she had kind of flipped and not turned Reddington, she was viewed as a traitor to her country, and because she left, she was leaving. And so the Russians are trying to look for her because they know she's alive. They don't believe she's dead, even though the media reports say that she is. And they think she's a traitor. And so Rostova's mom and dad have to come to grips with leaving and going and carving their own path. But one of the agents in the KGB in Russia and Rostova have been close, it sounds like. They've been close ever since they were 6. They made a pact at 6 years old that they would always take care of each other, even though Rostova never had feelings for this guy. And he always had feelings for her. And so Rostova takes care of her mom. Her mom goes into hiding. She has a bunch of money. They go to save the dad, who is Dom, in a much younger age in the past. And they get caught in the apartment. Rostova and her dad and this guy from the KGB kill everybody, but now for sure everybody will know that they're all traitors now. So they all go into hiding and they try to figure out, well, what can they do now? So Rostova wants to kill herself, and she wants her friend to not take the blame, but say that he found her and that she tried to get away and that she fell, and then he could say that he was a hero and take his life back. But in all of this, if you've been watching the first, the last few seasons, you know that the real Raymond Reddington died in a fire at Rostova's house during an op. But nobody else knows that to this point in the past timeline, in the flashback that we're in. Nobody knows that he's dead. And so this guy's idea is to take and assume the life of Raymond Reddington in order to get all of the millions of dollars that are out of his accounts so that they can go into hiding. And so throughout the seasons, you've been finding little pieces of, oh, this is the doctor that did that, this is the guy that did this and helped that guy become Raymond Reddington. And so he assumes his life. He goes through cosmetic surgery, his voice changes, and they get all of their money. They get all of the money from the banks. And Rostova says, if anything happens to me, the real Raymond Reddington's dead, her love is dead. And so I don't know if she's necessarily falling in love with this guy, but he is definitely in love with her since they've been 6 years old. She says, if anything happens to me, promise me you'll take care of Marcia, Agent Keen. And that's the connection that even though somehow he passed the DNA test to prove that he's her father, he wasn't her father, and he wasn't Raymond Reddington. He just assumed that life. But that's the connection right there, is that he made a wish, he made a promise to somebody who he really, really loved, even if she didn't reciprocate, to take care of Agent Keen. And so that's why he's been doing it her whole life. As far as I know, as far as what makes sense, is that he's not, however he passed the DNA test to say that he was her father, he's not her father, because she was already alive by the time that happened. So that's the connection, though. Agent Keen comes out and says, hey, she meets him halfway around the world, and she says, hey, I know everything. I still love you, even though you're not my biological father. I still love you because you've took a huge risk for my mom, and you've taken care of me my whole life, or you've protected me. And so that's kind of where the episode ends, with them. Agent Keen tells Reddington that she knows everything, his whole life story, how he assumed Raymond Reddington's identity, and she just didn't know why. And that's, I mean, she knew why he did it to begin with, to get all the money, but she didn't know why he kept doing it, and there was no explanation for that. And so that's kind of ends their story for that episode. Reddington goes to visit Dom and says, why would you do that? You know, now I need to know everything you told her, just in case you might have made things worse, because I'm assuming that the Russians who were following Ressler still believe that Rostova and her mom and dad are still alive, and so they're probably still investigating all of that. So it was a big risk, and I think that's what Reddington is most angry at, is that there's still risk out there. But those are things we'll have to learn in the future episodes. So I really enjoyed this 2-hour event. I think this is the second or third 2-hour event they've done. I really enjoy it. I'm hoping that the conclusion is something really cool. But that was kind of the 2-hour event last night. Let us know what you think if you watched it down in the comments. You can hit us up at outsidethelongbox@gmail.com. You can leave us a voicemail at 970-573-6148. Twitter and Instagram at outsidelongbox. Facebook.com/thinkingoutsidethelongbox. That was my thoughts on the Blacklist's 2-hour event last night. Let us know what you think. Hopefully you guys are having a great day. Go out, have some fun. Be happy. We'll see you guys later.